Hello, this is Chad Warren from chadwarren.me website and here at Facebook at Chad.Warren1. I wanted to share with you something that happened today and get your feedback. You know how sometimes you are on Facebook and somebody adds you to a without your permission? Well, that happened today, and whoever this Jack person is does this about once a month, and I'm not offended by it because I understand you can just go to the little I with the circle at the top right and remove yourself from the group. So that and then it upsets them, and it is rude to just force somebody into a group. Okay, so this is where it started today at 7:10. Whomever Jack is says, "Are you guys seeing my Serial Brain 2 posts? Please respond yes or no. If you aren't commenting, can you please explain why so I won't be bothering you anymore?" Okay, so that kind of a response hints to me that there are other people like me and they're trying to learn how to improve how we look in particular, period. How do we organize? Because I think one of the main scams of social media is it's like birth control. You just talk and you don't do anything. And no matter how quality your conversation is, it just dissipates into the ether. Right? So I'm trying to figure out strategies, tactics, how to gain support of other people that want to manage our community of people that look into inconvenient truth and want to do the right thing. So I'm going to kind of breeze through this conversation and show you what happened here. And if you have any suggestions, I've invited these people to participate. I've said, hey, my goal is to organize our community so that we're not just talking with nothing to show for it. Basically, I agree with most of what Trump supporters like to hear, such as protecting our Second Amendment, protecting our First Amendment, but in the wall and all kinds of stuff that the Trump supporters like, I agree with. But I disagree that Trump is, or anybody is able to become the president and do anything good about anything, because it's organized crime that runs everything. Trump is directly connected to Russian organized crime in the business of construction in New York. His building was made with concrete because the mob that he's connected with is connected with concrete versus steel, for example. And he totally supports Zionism, which is the modern Israeli state, which is land in a project owned and operated by the House of Rothschild, and they use their own Jewish people like pawns in a game. A lot of Jewish people don't agree with Zionist Israel. It says in the Bible that God punished the Jews for disobeying, and so they're not to enter Jerusalem again. That God took that away from them. And so most Christians are confused because it clearly says, Jesus says, those who say they are Jews but are not Jews, but are the synagogue of Satan. And that describes modern Jewry, who are Ashkenazi, of that tribe. And that means they're white people from the Caucasus Mountains who converted to Judaism. And they're not Semitic. And they're not Torah-believing Jews, most of them. They don't read the Old Testament, and they don't believe there really is a God. They believe that either, atheism, like you don't think about it, or that if you're into the dark occult, that you're supposed to do Kabbalah magic with numerology and all this stuff, in Enochian magic, so that you can become a god, and these Luciferian concepts are so interwoven, so dominant, that just the idea of having grade school where you have first, second, third grade and on, that's a Luciferian concept, that you become more valuable the more knowledge that you have, right? As capitalism, yeah, it makes sense to have private property and to open a business and all that, but I mean, we're playing with money that these lords that hate us gave us. So they didn't, they don't give us any of these systems so that we can be free. They didn't give us America to be free. They gave us America like you'd give a baby a pacifier, so that we think that we're free. Here's a stuffed animal for you. You know what I mean? Like, that's how we're treated, and that's how we act. So, Jody says that she's personally not buying into Trump. So we get this dialogue going, and I'm trying to figure out, how do we turn this dialogue into local action? Oh, didn't mean to do that. Oh, come on. Alright. So let's hear what Jody's dissent is about. I'm personally am not buying into Trump. In my opinion, the economy is not better. I'm working 3 jobs. There are more people that are homeless. He's selling off our natural resources to interest. I gotta pour my water into my French press coffee maker here real quick. Put the top on. Alright, he's destroying our environment, so no, I don't support Trump, and I don't think he's going to overturn the deep state. I think he's part of it. Nobody gets in office without their permission. Exactly. I concur, he's a Zionist, so that means he is for the New World Order. Many Jews don't support Israeli government policies. I promote the Don't Fear the Future episode number 28 with James Sanders and Michael Connolly over at blogtalkradio.com/infinite source. Got some good response from some personal friends, Reed and John, that appreciated that dialogue. And here we get Peter, please remove me from these messages, and we explain that you can remove yourself. I explain, that I agree with. I think he's just telling us what we want to hear, and we're getting different results. For example, it seems like a huge contradiction for Trump to bash big tech about censoring the alt-right for their political views, but now to turn to them so that our gadgets can spy on us and decide who gets to have a gun or not, who's mentally ill or not. Anybody that would agree with that is mentally ill, because if you think that you want freedom, but you're endorsing a supposedly conservative support of a technological police state that infringes upon the Second Amendment, what are you, crazy? And then I said, I thought he was going to take the money that was wasted on these wars that only help the ruling elite and help us here in America. What happened to that? All we hear about is threats of war, as usual. Marion says there's a lot of contradictions that are happening. And I say I want to be positive. I need to learn real politics, because I understand that, even if what I'm thinking is true, if I'm not able to organize with other people, then what good is that? I want us to make America great again, and to not wear those stupid hats, MAGA hats that are made in China. And then obviously it's idol worship, the way people treat Trump, just the way the Democrats worshipped Obama without question. So Jody didn't believe this from the go. Marion says she's pro-human and pro-freedom. That seems to be something that causes great frustration right now. I assume she's referring to the left, who wants to control everything. Jody says she's pro, let's stop destroying the planet and selling all of our country to foreign agents and blowing up every third world country for the benefit of the military-industrial complex. Hear, hear. I explained that the Masons' motto is order out of chaos, which would explain why we're seeing these contradictions. It's like one time in the past I organized a meetup group based around InfoWars when I was dumb enough to still try to work with that group. And none of the other people had any idea what they wanted to do. They didn't like any of my ideas. Then one guy goes, hey, why don't we go across the street because the Ron Paul group is meeting over there? And I didn't want to do it, but they wanted to all do it, and I felt like I was surrounded by a bunch of body snatchers, Borg hive minders, and I was like, fine. So we go over there, and, because it's a bunch of conspiracy theorist type of people, they start raising questions. Hey, what about this? And what's Ron Paul going to do about this? And then this campaign director says, Dr. Ron Paul personally told me not to include any InfoWarrior people. And I laughed, and all the other group looked all stunned. And I was like, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard. Hell, Ron Paul's on Alex Jones all the time. So that's a train wreck that they created to happen. And of course, it's obvious to me that it's a big Masonic scam to divide and conquer people. I suggest that the conservatives need to have their own environmental plan. I'm trying to understand Marion. I guess, okay, she says, I'm definitely not a globalist, but I am a humanist. They have pitted globalism against humanism. I want what is right for all people, but globalism is not going to bring about good things for humans. I know that this 2030 UN agenda is bad for humanity. That's interesting because when I hear humanism, I think of secular atheism, right? But then she talks about the 2030 UN agenda, which the UN represents humanism, solving problems through a political body and having no connection to Jesus Christ or a faith or whatever. So there's some confusion there for me, at least. I mean, I understand about saying globalism means international business that has no regard for human rights and values, and group on the left that would be fighting for that. I agree with Marion that, of course, this new Green Deal is a scam. They don't care about the environment. They just care about a new way to take money from us, which makes them richer and it keeps us weaker. And it's also a new form of warfare because you can get liberal people who wouldn't support guns to support, aborting babies to save the earth, and control freaks. Like, they talk about crazy stuff. Mark Dice mentions, like, yesterday they're like, oh, you're watching Netflix and that's using all this electricity, so you need to stop watching so much Netflix or you're going to kill the earth. I mean, obviously, you won't be able to do anything. Oh, if you're over 90 pounds, you're killing the earth. Oh, you know what I mean? Like, scary. Like a liberal witch hunt. And I explain how if you, right, like Al Gore was suggesting, but then he is invested in a company called Chery, I think it is, that produced the first affordable vehicles for the Chinese that pollute heavily, then that's dishonest, right? Because he's telling you in the West you're going to have to not be able to do anything to save the earth, but China and India can pollute all they want because they have to grow as an economy to reach this, first world status. I expressed that I used to be upset at the Lucifer and his minions, but now I'm upset at the people that are supposed to be my peers because they want to be consumer slaves. Jody brings up all of these topics discussed in the conspiracy community about geoengineering and all the military-industrial complex does to attack us. Fluoride in the water and all the preservatives in the food that give us cancer on purpose. Marion says she has a world view, not just a nationalist view, which, of course, I'm sure if you talk to Trump supporters, they all understand how important it is to have a world view, and you could probably get a lot of those people to admit that even in this day and age of instant connection to people all around the world, that we still do have a retarded view of the world, because we all understand that you have to we are all one people. Everybody agrees with that. And that's a big disingenuous thing about the Trump movement, is that ship sailed hundreds of years ago about national sovereignty. As soon as the Rothschild created private Federal Reserve, took over the issuance of currency in America, there's no national sovereignty. You may as well just take a lighter to that Constitution. You've got Alan Greenspan on TV saying we are the law of the land. I mean, it's just pathetic that they don't even hide this stuff, and people are just in such denial, and they want to believe that they're wrestling here real. That's all they care about is the drama. They don't care about the facts, because the facts takes a lot of work. And I understand that, because I've always wanted to make movies, but do I want to do what it takes to make that happen? Oh God, no. I want to play guitar, but do I really want to play guitar? Oh, well, that would take work. Unfortunately, that's the way we all behave to a large degree. I love all people, beauty, health, and conservation, but the green thing is really getting twisted and perverted into just another... God damn it. If I hit another one of these emoticons... Alright, pardon my cursing. It's just another way to take our freedoms, our life. I'm ecologically minded and very supportive of healthy ways to improve our environment, education, social structure, political system, but I won't go for socialism or communism at all. Yeah, but people do by supporting Trump, the communists are in control. Not the communists, it's all the same thing. Capitalism, communism, it's all just... Capitalism is encouraging freedom through money, right? And communism is encouraging freedom by monitoring the behavior of people and using the force of state to change people's behavior so that they have a better quality of life. And then the internet is in the middle, because yeah, you can make a lot of money on here, and it was sold to us about free speech, but now it's all a police state, and all of our data is being monitored. So it is communism. I explained that I think the 9/11 terrorist attacks was an inside job, but when I talk to other people that believe the same thing, they just want to talk and they don't want to do anything, even though there is currently a lawyers committee that is suing the FBI over there, and they have organized a grand jury. That's LCFOR911.org, I believe, Lawyers Committee for 9/11 Truth. I can't get people to like, comment, and share that post, let alone to support that movement. So, Jody says people just don't want to believe that government is that evil concerning 9/11. Marion says people know, but they don't say anything. It's just that scary. It is. That's why I'm here doing all this, because I think the window is closing, and that we're all labeled as terrorists just for being critical of the United States government, or in all governments, and we've come full circle, because supposedly that being critical is supposed to be what America is about, because America revolted from the rule of England because of being taxed without represented. Yet if Jody says Trump's just a pawn, I give an example. If you have a government contract and you question the Israeli government, you can lose your contract and job, like the black man that was the lawyer, dentist in Dallas, lost his job. So that is a destruction of the First Amendment, and Trump supports that. That's why I don't support Trump. He's against the First Amendment. while claiming that he's for it and getting all of his followers to believe that he is. I trust that people will do what is right. Leadership is not the perfect group of people. We need term limits, but more than that, revise the entire system. So I'm reading through this because my goal is to get, collect the feedback of people in our group. What are their priorities? What do they think we should do? Marion thinks that the priorities are term limits. And calls for a complete revision of the system. And I am, but we don't have to have a war, and we don't have, pardon me, permission. We have the internet. And even if they knock that down, we've got each other. So all government is agreeing to do something and doing it. You know what I mean? There's no, you are the law. That's how I understand the Constitution, right? The Constitution is infringed on all the time. And then people just think, well, I'm sitting here at my house and working my job. It's not my job to do anything. It's the government's job. And it's like, just by saying that, you've lost. You're not a true American patriot. You are the government. If you think that there's this government that's more powerful than you, and you know that they are corrupt because they're breaking these laws, then you're in trouble. You're corrupt. I'm corrupt. So we're going to have to learn that we have to organize our own government and just say that the one that exists now, that represents the ruling class. They're all Tories. You know what I mean? They're all the left and the right. If you vote, you are pro-ruling class. Harvard did a study. At best, any piece of legislation only gets a 30% chance of becoming law. The country's been turned into a bunch of zombies. Jody says that's right. Marion says Trump's not the end-all be-all. I think the hype will wear off when these contradictions become more apparent. Well, I think we're at that point. I mean, certainly Trump promoting restrictions based on mental illness for gun ownership in connection to these summer shootings would be a turning point. That's a group we need to focus on. Are all the Second Amendment people. Jody thinks that that's because she talks about conspiracy theory. Both are true. People write us off, but we have a large support base of other people that think like we do. And unfortunately, that has been divided and conquered because Trump went on the InfoWars show, which is a controlled opposition. He's not doing anything other than telling you to give him money and buy a t-shirt and some gold through his people. Trump isn't doing anything about 9/11. I don't see him doing it. He talks about problems with the Federal Reserve. I don't see him doing anything about it. Do you? Trump doesn't believe Marion doesn't believe Trump can fix all the brokenness. He's just buying us time. He's done some things, massive things, in just a short time. How they all play out is yet to be seen. I think maybe he bought us just a little time. We still have a huge dragon to slay. Yeah, I mean, things very differently. I said Trump was boring and he didn't do anything. And to me, Trump is crazy and he's really active, but I'm like, Marion, it doesn't. If you're a Trump supporter, show me the facts. Like, what, is the actual outcome? I mean, I know we hear like the lowest black unemployment rate and things like that, but, we need to play science and be able to verify what is going on. You know what I mean? We can't depend on the news to tell us. And I'm saying that, I don't want to just be critical all the time. That's a problem within the truth community. Is maybe everything I'm saying is true, but it's a downer. All I'm doing is complaining about this is a lie, this is a lie, this is a lie, this is a lie. That's just increasing chaos. So the Masons are like, cha-ching, that's my goal. I want to be in control. They know how to cause chaos in us and have it work out for them. So if there's a way that I can support what Trump supporters do, and it fits with my values, I'm all for it. We've got to learn basic politics. I totally understand, Marion, this lesser of two evils by choosing Trump thing. I share my goal is to help us learn how to organize our own political movement beyond these misleaders in this digital ghetto of Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. So if y'all have any interest in sharing what you think the top priority should be and what actions we should take, please add me as a friend here at Facebook, Chad.Warren1. Marion says she feels Americans are misled and don't really understand the issues because they are so convoluted and twisted through the media. Sorry, I live here by the train tracks by the fuel depot. And I say the internet is the addiction of our time, like drugs was for the 60s. All of this was created by the military-industrial complex, and I assume it's because they think they can have more control over us through it than we can use these tools to stand against the ruling class. I just want to see us learn how to organize ourselves. We're always given just enough rope to hang ourselves with. Just enough credit to get in debt. You see that little game? Oh, well, it's your fault that you got in credit debt. Yeah, it is. But I mean, now everybody's addicted. It's not drugs, it's not credit debt, now it's the internet. Now you're on here all the time, and what do you got to show for it? So you see what I'm saying? We know that the British forced opium into China because they knew it would destroy the integrity of the country to be unable to defend against them. So obviously, while individuals are responsible, the facts are that the Marion agrees. We have to educate and get out in front of this BS and do a different path than the two they set in front of us, because they use the duplicity to control everyone. Red versus blue. Right. So I'm saying we should use the internet. That's why I created a website, chadwarren.me, because they can't censor me as much there, although I'm sure that's coming. Evidently, an advance in that direction has been the censoring of anti-vaccine websites through Google search. I believe that's what occurred last week, something like that. Yeah, and notice that it's two women who are being sensible and talking about this stuff in this chat. that was started by some guy named Jack who didn't say anything and never does. It's just like how in my son's Cub Scout group, there are girls in there and they pay attention and participate a lot better than the boys. It's sad to say. Less ego and more positive cooperation, I say. I announced that I'm going to be on this radio show tonight at 8 Central. If y'all could call in with your questions or comments, I would appreciate it. That number is 319-527-6092. Here's the Facebook group for the Don't Fear the Future broadcast. Marion says it's true that she's for a combination of RBE/UBI Nasara Jubilee 4-day work week. We already know the monetary system is broken and wrong. Restructure the educational system, the medical system, political system with term limits, limit the perks, and do away with the political system as a pathway to personal financial success. More like lead if you want to lead, but you won't get rich doing it. Only those fit will lead at the behest of protecting and preserving what is good, not just for everyone. No more lining the pockets of this wealthy and making it easy to be fraudulent with the people's money. Respect. Okay, so that's a specific alternative Christian point of view, and it points to the problem of people who worship the U.S. Constitution as a god. It was already all that was designed that way. The senator not a salary because they understood that they would raise their salary if they could. So, and Benjamin Franklin was asked at the Constitutional Convention by a woman, what kind of government do we have? And he said, a constitutional republic if we can keep it. Well, we can't keep it. We failed. And the reason why we failed is that we depended on the aristocracy of founding fathers, and these leaders, wealthy white male landowners, were the only ones that could vote and all that jazz. So if we're really serious about stopping the evils of the patriarchy like the left wants to do, well, hell, half of that would be cut out the frickin' middleman and develop cooperatives. Jody wants to point out something that people are missing here with the tariffs. It has destroyed farming, and weather modification has destroyed the land. And then the Chinese are buying up all the farmland. And I'm looking for clarification about that. System and the ports at Long Beach, where we receive goods from China. I also know that Japan and countries like the Philippines are traditionally opposed to China. They have cultural differences. So we need to team up with them. Why is Trump always China, China, China? Of course, it's not really nations that own anything. It's rich people, lords of Europe, that own the nations. The Rothschilds and the Borgias, I forget all those family names. Farmers couldn't sell their products, soybeans, their corn, their wheat, because China bought that stuff from other countries because the price went up. She shares this interview where Steve Bannon's a warning about the China trade wars. Steve Bannon was the guy that ran Trump's election campaign. Okay, and then, that's this typical scam, just like how Christianity is supposed to be this alternative to Judaism, but you see where that ended up. Both of those groups have been taken over by Zionism. So this whole good cop, bad cop, we used to be friends and now we're enemies, is such a scam. Steve, he ran Trump's campaign, but now he's opposed to Trump. Give me a break, man. Do we support any of this stuff? Aren't we just told about it on the news, and then we either like it or don't, but none of that has anything to do with the will of the people being in charge of anything? A bunch of alcoholics that just can't keep back to the bottle, except with us it's trusting the government that can only abuse us. The problem is they have so many sophisticated weapons and plans you can't even conceive of. They've been doing mind control that Jody's talking about, MK Ultra, Project Monarch, for 60 or 70 years or more. They can read your thoughts. Something about a super quantum interface device. I mean, that's what the internet is. It's the frickin' Antichrist, and we're all plugged into it right now. And that doesn't even account for the secret space program. Jody says that there's been intergalactic space travel since the 40s or 50s. I'd like to see some evidence to back that up. I want to go. Beam me up, Scotty. And and she's talking about time travel. Figures they can do that as well, and I agree that science fiction is really science fact. Certainly Terminator with Skynet, there really is a Skynet. I mean, come on. She doesn't have the answer. She just knows it's all bigger than people realize, Jody. So that's the problem, is that you've got people that don't look into conspiracies, and then you got people that do, but we don't do anything about it. I mean, it is a very teensy tiny 0.00001% of humanity that does anything about anything. And then amongst those, how many of them are successful? It pains me very much that Tracy Twyman is no longer with us, that Isaac Cappy is no longer with us. Those were people that, you know, like, I'm here as part of the audience that listens to these podcasts and watch these videos, and I'm trying to organize the audience. Those people were either like Cappy, using his celebrity to focus on the issues of pedophilia within the ruling class, and he ended up dead. Ran over by a vehicle, supposedly. Go over to Crypto Beast YouTube channel, Steve Outram at burners.me to learn more about that. Tracy Twyman studied the occult, and you know, I mean, just the fact that she's a woman in this area of research is important. I mean, it sucks to be a man, and how do you I need to find, you know, there needs to be a dating site to find women that you're compatible with based on interest in these topics, number one. Number two, she was a wealth of original research. But, you know, personally, I think that she was an example of the problem with looking into the dark side, is that it increases paranoia and it increases your risk. I very much think that she was killed. I mean, who's hanging themselves from doorknobs? You know, I mean, that's totally some satanic mob type of thing. She had a young son that she loved very much. So, you know, that's a great fit the criteria of somebody that's actually doing something about this, which I'm always complaining about, and she was taken from us. That's a tough blow. I say, it's funny because it's all that evil, scary stuff that encourages me to hope that Jesus Christ is our salvation. But I sure don't see what instant grace really is, or what Christians or American values have in terms of helping us against the dominance of corruption in everything. I pray every time I eat and give thanks to Jesus Christ. I do Bible study every day. But in terms of instant grace, I think of meditation. That has a real measurable result. Jody says we're being ruled by evil. I think my desire to help our group organize can really help, because there's tons of people just like you and I that know this stuff and want to do something about it, but we just don't know how. So I'm asking you to give me your feedback and to cooperate with me on learning tactics. That's what the whole point of this video is. This was somebody's tactic to start this group chat. I think to promote his own post, which he didn't do very well. He asked us a question about serial brain posts, and it has worked out that I've been able to use this chat to share my stuff. I don't know if people went and checked it out or not. I can use Bitly to track where I'm getting clicks on my links from what person or from what group. I don't see somebody else offering a place for people to learn how to manage themselves like I'm talking about. Do you? So that means we have an ability to make an impression if we can show people acting together. Yes, there are very powerful forces, but I think the greatest evil is when we doubt ourselves as individuals and the power of us together in the name of Jesus Christ in true freedom for the people of earth and beyond. Jody read something that said that Satan worshippers believe the only way that Jesus Christ will come again is if the earth is either all good or all evil, and they figured it was easier to bring people to evil than it was good. Yeah, I don't fear or hate Lucifer and his minions anymore for that kind of reason, because it's just like how I won't do bad is what encourages us to get serious about doing something, because there may not be a tomorrow. Both Lucifer and Jesus are referred to as the morning star in the Bible. So it seems like a good cop, bad cop routine to me. I heard that Lucifer is being held in detention like you would hold a criminal before their court trial, and that one day we will judge him based on how good we are, determines if we're in that jury. Jody read a book years ago called Dialogue with the Devil by Taylor Caldwell. I asked how I could support an issue like the one Jody mentions concerning tariffs and farmers at my website. I think we need a place where people can see the big picture of all these topics and how much support there is for each one, and then connect those with local groups that care about those issues and make videos showing how we were able to take action and what the outcome is. The problem with social media is time into the ether. Jody says in that book that you'll be reading it and recognize you're agreeing with Lucifer. Yeah, that's the problem, is that the Lucifer philosophy is so dominant that we're swimming in it, and most people don't even know. Just the idea of having grades in school is promoting the idea that you become more powerful the more knowledge that you have, which is totally Luciferian. And all of this is very confusing. Obviously, I'm into Gnosticism, the Christ within, wisdom, gnosis, direct connection to our intelligence, right? I consider it like you got Father God, that's the Logos, the mind. The Zionists believe the whole world is the mind of God, right? And then you've got the feminine aspect of form, beauty, emotion, desire, psychic phenomenon, intuition. So we have natural intelligence. The Gnostics were the original decentralized, and that's what I am trying to form here today. Why do we fear the CIA? Why don't we just recognize that we are a decentralized intelligence agency? You see what I'm saying? That's half the problem. The other people have this crazy goal to rule the world, and all we're thinking about most of the time is how overwhelmed we are. Obviously, that destroys your ability to be successful. So, I don't want to support the dark occult, but when people like Jason Louv at I can't remember his site name, but those people are all about using your willpower to achieve your goals and recognizing how important your philosophy and your sense of who you are is. Getting out of the mind control of conformity and consumerism and creating your own reality, because we can't help but create our own reality because we have a very limited perspective. The visual light spectrum, fraction of what we know is out there. With instrumentation, you can see radar and microwaves and X-rays and gamma rays and whatever. So, you can't help but interpret the Bible or interpret everything based on your perspective. So you may as well realize that and be conscious that you are crafting reality by how you choose to look at it, number one, let alone what actions you take. So that's where I, differ with Jay Dyer, who recently was critiquing Terence McKenna's magical thinking. Yeah, it is a problem to be some new ager, and think that because you wear some crystals around your neck and smoke weed and sit in a pentagram that you're, going to change the world. But at the same time, there is a double slit experiment that I haven't personally seen, but supposedly electrons are shooting out of two possible locations onto a target, that it changes the outcome. Marion has a post here about the Gulag Archipelago. It's a foreword by J.B. Peterson in regards to being knee-deep in Luciferianism. I mentioned, like Freeman Fly of Freeman TV does, that all these corporate logos are Masonic Zionist Luciferian. The Facebook logo is based on Tubal Cain. Tubal Cain, I mean, is I think like the lineage of Cain, like Cain and Abel in the Bible, and the whole world of warfare and technology and art is attributed to him, I believe, within Masonic circles. I mentioned there's a Masonic handshake on the inside front cover of the 1611 King James Bible. So it's practically impossible to not be under the sway of the dark side. And then it's like Christianity is telling us to just sit here, maybe something good will happen, or maybe Jesus is going to come save us. But that sounds like Superman, who swoops down to save people, and I know he's a representative of Lucifer. I want to be positive, but my critical thinking skills seem to be a lot stronger. That Trump supporter young man who organized a cleanup campaign in Baltimore is one of the last positive things I can remember. Marion encourages me to retain my use of critical thinking. I ask if it's alright to video this and use it as an example of how people can meet through social media but then work together as part of a cooperative action instead of just dissipating that energy. I never got a for or against, and I don't have to ask for their permission since it's a public digital space, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. I mentioned that the book I read about the Trivium, which was recommended to me by Jan Irvin, who unfortunately I think is a total prick, and I would love to get in a street critical thinking just so he can act like he's the only MFer in the world that knows how to use it. It's a complete ego jerk. But I respect the work that he's done, and that's reality. But that book was written by a nun. Sister Carol something, I think. I can't remember. Obviously, you have to think critically even if you're just trying to understand the Bible. I never understand that. People don't interpret the Bible. What the hell? How can you not? Have you ever tried to read the Bible? You could spend a whole day analyzing one damn sentence. Is this talking about the third eye? Thine eye be single? Let's argue about that for eternity. And I think it's always been true that there are some people that just want to live at the surface level of life versus those who wish to know God through logic. Marion suggests to keep a reverence to the Creator as well. I certainly pray and give thanks, Marion. Can you be more specific as to how I do that? At least Marion's honest and admit that it's not easy, and shows a sad face. It is sad. It is very sad to have to doubt everything based on common sense. What has Christianity done for us? What has humanism done for us? You know, I don't have anywhere to turn to. I only see the dominance of the dark side. And I give thanks for it, as I give thanks for all things, because everything is connected. Obviously, there is some kind of order in the universe that determines physical law, spiritual law. It's stupid to be a progressive left-wing person because you're arguing that people have a right to break all these rules and turn themselves into the other sex and turn themselves into cyborgs. But then you turn around and say you respect nature. No, you don't. You say you hate God, but then you want to become God through technology. And you want to use reason to argue that something is true, yet you also want to destroy the use of rules, of logic, as a tool of the patriarch. You can't do that. If you can do whatever you want, then I can do whatever I want, and that's going to cause a lack of integrity that causes the collapse of life. You have to say yes and you have to say no. You have to breathe in, conservation, and you have to breathe out, liberation, expiration. Well, that is that, and that was a whopping hour and 20 minutes. So I don't know who is going to listen for that long. Thank you for you. So please help me organize our community so that we can be the united part of the United States concept, and that we can incorporate the participation of people worldwide into the United States, and to have it be something that exists in our heart, on the internet, and on the ground, and isn't something that you vote for or have to be on the North American landmass to participate in. Just like Jesus Christ is not supposed to be a religion. You're not supposed to be going into these big churches. It's supposed to be copying the example. It could all be made up, right? But obviously there's enough value in the story of the man who showed how to be assertive, not to be passive and not to be aggressive, how to be a spiritual king instead of a physical king, right? And if you support Trump, you support a physical kingdom of the Antichrist. So we need to focus on the Christian community that's out to lunch, as well as people that believe in national sovereignty, which is no longer the world that we live in if we all have smartphones made in China, and that those people that make those phones buildings so much they have to put up suicide nets. That means all of us are racially exploiting other people. So the progressives are full of crap. Just like the Trump supporters are not conservative. Thank you very much. Please visit chadwarren.me.